News. Israel-Palestine conflict.
Executed in cold blood. Palestinians react to public killing. Palestinian activists and social media users call for response against Israeli crimes and killings against them.
A Palestinian
man shot his shop at Israeli security forces deployed in the occupied West Bank city of Hurwara.
After a Palestinian man was reportedly shot dead by Israeli police on December 2, 2022. Jafar Ashtier, AFP. The killing of a Palestinian man by an Israeli soldier in broad daylight in the occupied West Bank has sparked widespread anger among Palestinians.
Amid calls on social media to escalate resistance acts against the Israeli occupation.
The last moments of Amar Mufleh, 23, were captured on video on Friday by an unknown Palestinian. Footage showed Mufleh being held in a headlock by an Israeli soldier, as two other men tried to wrestle him away.
Mufleh then appeared to strike the soldier and attempt to take hold of his rifle before the soldier pulls out the handgun and shoots him several times as he falls to the ground.
Keep reading. List of 3 items. List 1 of 3. List 3 of 3. In the immediate aftermath, Israeli forces took away Mufleh's body, denying him a funeral. A well-versed
humiliation and control tactic against Palestinians who were shot dead by Israeli forces. Confrontation broke out in the town and several Palestinians were subsequently
local media reported. The incident took place in the occupied West Bank town of Hurwara,
south of the Nablus, which went on a commercial strike the following day in protest of Mufleh's killing.
The Palestinian Foreign Ministry
condemned the shooting judgment, meant to escalate already spreading violence in the occupied territory. Palestinian activists and social media users used the hashtag Hurwara execution in Arabic and called for a response to Israel's crimes. Sign up for Al Jazeera Week in the Middle East.
Catch up on our coverage of the region, all in one place. Abdulrahim Al-Sheikh, a lecturer at Berzai University,
wrote on Facebook, "There is no option for a Palestinian who has sprung out of this land, except to defend himself in the face of terrorism in the Israeli occuper." A statement issued by Lion Den, a Palestinian multifunctional armed group, called on people to break the rules and take the streets to protest. The group said it carried out shooting operations at Israeli targets in the vicinity of Nablus after midnight, as well as targeting at military point on Mount Gerizim. We correlate the fight of the fractions to cross rank and direct students together in order to revenge the blood of martyrs.
Radwan al-Aqras,
a Palestinian writer, pointed out to be killed by Israel in 10 days and said they are not merely statistics, but people who have families and loved ones, hopes and dreams. The scene of the cold-blooded execution of Palestinian youth are by Israeli soldier is one of the most difficult scenes I've seen in my life, he wrote on Twitter.
Rising
Tensions have made 2022 the middlest year since the end of the Second Intifada in 2005. At least 207 Palestinians killed in the occupied terrorists in the Gaza Strip, West Bank, and East Jerusalem. New fascism. For their part, Israel police said in a statement that these border girls were approached by several suspects when one pulled a knife and stabbed one of them. The girl responded by shooting one suspect and neutralizing him. The statement said, I think that one of the girls suffered minor injuries. Palestinian dismissive version saying the murder was unarmed and the alleged murder weapon was not found.
Ahmed Majlan, a member of the Palestine Liberation Organization (PLO) Executive Committee, said that the Israeli occupation forces had executed Mufta in full view of the Hamas and is a clear sign of the new fascism
in Israel. This documented that cruel crime required the International Criminal Court to trial occupation soldiers and stop dealing with the occupation as said above the law, Madalani added. The PLO's human rights body said
that there are changes in the firing instructions and behavior of the Israeli forces in the occupied territory.
Based on the new aggressive policy of the most far-right Israeli government against the Palestinians, which established a new stage in the conflict. Palestinians and right advocates for a more aggressive policy, and the Prime Minister designated Benjamin Netanyahu, who has cobbled together the most far-right Israeli cabinet.
Netanyahu has roped Bezalel Smotrich, who opposes Palestinian statehood, and Itamar Ben-Gvir,
a far-right anti-Palestinian legislator, in his cabinet. Ben-Gvir, etc. from Kiryat Arba, occupied West Bank, has been convicted in the incitement to racism, destroying the property, processing a terror organization's propaganda material, and suffocating terror organization. Ben-Gvir also wants to expel disloyal Palestinian citizens of Israel.
The far-right religious Zionism party, led by Smotrich, supports settlement building in the occupied territories. The party
will hold the authority over Israeli settlement activity in the occupied West Bank under the Netanyahu government. The International Human Rights Foundation called on the international community to take up sanctions against Israel. The police accusation of young Palestinian Amar Mahra must not go unpunished, the foundation tweeted. Such assassinations by agents of the Israeli state are too common and constitute a clear violation of human rights. The international community must adopt sanctions. Two Wednesday, the United Nations Middle East envoy said he was horrified by the killing. Such incident must be fully and promptly investigated, and the responsible held accountable. He tweeted. Nasser Kanani, the spokesman of Iran's foreign ministry, said Mufrad's death deserves a global action, but the daily crimes of criminal Zionist regime are not condemned by human rights crimes, nor is a fact-finding committee formed for the crimes. Change it. No, what the Executed in cold blood, Palestinians react to public killing. The killing of a Palestinian man by an Israeli soldier in broad daylight in the occupied West Bank has sparked widespread anger among Palestinians amid calls on social media to escalate resistance acts against the Israeli occupation. The last moment of Amar Mufra, 23, were captured on video on Friday by an unknown Palestinian. Footage showed Mufra being held in the headlock by an Israeli soldier, as two other men tried to wrestle him away. Mufra then appears to strike the soldier and attempt to take hold of his rifle before the soldier pulls out a handgun and shoots him several times as he falls to the ground. In the immediate aftermath, Israeli forces took away Mufra's body, denying him a funeral, a well-versed humiliation and control tactic against Palestinians who are shot dead by Israeli forces. Confrontations broke out in the town, and several Palestinians were subsequently injured. Local media reported. The incident took place in the occupied West Bank town of Huwara, south of Nablus, which went on a commercial strike the following day in protest at Mufra's killing. The Palestinian Foreign Ministry condemned the shooting as a tantamount to an execution meant to escalate already spiraling violence in the occupied territory. Palestinian activists and social media users used the hashtag #HuwaraExecution in Arabic and called for a response to Israel crimes. Abdurrahim al-Sheikhi, a lecturer at Breizheit University, wrote on Facebook, "There is no option for the Palestinians who has sprung out of this land, except to defend himself in the face of the terrorism of the Israel occupier. A statement issued by Lions Den, a Palestinian multi-factional armed group, called on people to break the laws and take to the streets in protest. The group said they carried out shooting operations at Israeli targets in the vicinity of Nablus after midnight, as well as firing at an Israeli military point on Mount Gerizim. We call on our brothers, the fighters of the factions, to cross-rank and direct our guns together in order to avenge the blood of the martyrs. The statement said. Radwan al-Akras, a Palestinian writer, pointed out that this is the 10th Palestinian to be killed by Israel in 10 days, and said they are not merely statistics, but people who have families and loved ones, hope and dreams. The scene of the cold-blooded execution of the Palestinian youth Ammar Mufra by the Israeli soldier is one of the most difficult scenes I have seen in my life, he wrote on Twitter. Rising tensions have made 2022 the deadliest year since the end of the Second Intifada in 2005, with the latest 207 Palestinians killed in the occupied territories of the Gaza Strip, West Bank, and East Jerusalem. New fascism. For their part, Israel's police said in a statement that its border guards were approached by several suspects when one pulled out a knife and stabbed one of them. The guards responded by shooting one suspect and neutralizing him, the statement said, adding that one of the girls suffered minor injuries. Palestinians dismissed the version of the events, saying that Mufra was unarmed and that the alleged murder weapon was not found. Ahmed Majdalani, a member of Palestinian Liberation Organization Executive Committee, said that the Israeli occupation forces had executed Mufra in full view of the whole world, and is a clear sign of the new fascism in Israel. This documented and clear crime requires the International Criminal Court to try the occupation soldiers and stop dealing with the occupation as a state above the law. Added, the PLO's human rights body said that there are changes in the firing instructions and the behavior of the Israeli forces in the occupied territory, based on the new aggressive policy of the most far-right Israeli government against the Palestinians, which establishes a new stage in the conflict. Palestinians and rights advocates fear a more aggressive policy under Prime Minister designate Benjamin Netanyahu, who has cobbled together the most far-right Israeli cabinet. Netanyahu has lobbed in Bezalel Smotrich, who opposes Palestinian statehood, and Itamar Ben-Gvir, a far-right anti-Palestinian religious settler in his cabinet. Ben-Gvir, a settler from Kiryat Arba in the occupied West Bank, has been convicted of incitement to racism, destroying property, possessing a terror organization's propaganda material, and supporting a terror organization. Ben-Gvir also wants to expel disloyal Palestinian citizens of Israel. The far-right religious Zionism party, led by Smotrich, supports settlement building in the occupied territories. The party will hold the authority over Israel's settlement activity in the occupied West Bank and the Netanyahu government. The International Human Rights Foundation called on the international community to take up sanctions against Israel. The police execution of the young Palestinian Ammar Mufra must not go unpunished, the foundation tweeted. Such assassinations by agents of the Israeli state are too common and constitute a clear violation of human rights. The international community must adopt sanctions. To Venezland, the United Nations Middle East envoy, said he was horrified by the king. Such incidents must be fully and promptly investigated, and those responsible held accountable, he tweeted. Nassar Kanani, the spokesman of Iran Foreign Ministry, said Mufra's death deserves a global reaction, but the daily crimes of criminal Zionist regime are not condemned by human rights claimants, nor is a fact-finding committee formed for those crimes. I always say that Israel is the state of terrorists, and this situation is horrible and awful. Israel is the worst state in the world. City of death.